Welcome to GCSE Hub. This is GCSE Business, and today we're looking at answering 12-mark questions on the AQA paper. Now, there are 3 assessment objectives, or AOs as they're called, that will be assessed in this question. It's the only question which actually examines all 3 of the assessment objectives. So you've got understanding, application, and analysis and evaluation. Now, the command words that are used in the question are evaluate and analyse. These are by far the most challenging of the command words. So evaluate by definition is to make a judgment, and analyse is to separate the information into components and identify the characteristics. So evaluate, as I said, is a top level skill that's assessed in the exam. Evaluate questions look for respondents to form an opinion on a given issue and offer a critical response. These questions often require the candidate to use knowledge relating to the topic area and wider knowledge of business to access the top level marks. Evaluate questions are always linked to a case study, a written passage that you must refer to, and respondents must use this to support the response. And finally, a conclusion is always necessary in an evaluate question. So let's have a look at an example question. This is taken from a specimen paper. Analyse the impact of Apple moving its production facilities to China. In your answer, you should consider ethical and financial implications. So you might notice here that the question starts with the introduction, analyse the impact, giving the command word, and then it states that clearly in your answer you should consider 2 criteria. Now, these 2 criteria, you have to talk about them, you've got no alternative, and you have to give them equal weighting. So on the one hand, on the other, and you have to give evidence to support that. But first of all, you have to show the examiner that you understand what the questions are about. So you need to give a definition. Show the examiner you understand what the words financial implications and ethical considerations actually are. So define them. Once you've done that, then you need to make a point for ethics, and show supporting evidence, and then make a point on the other hand, in this case for financial considerations, and give the necessary evidence. And when you do so, giving evidence, you can't make a new point, of course. It's like the 6 and 9 mark questions. You instead give evidence to back it up with detailed chains of argument that are written in context, and a minimum of 3 steps for each point. And then finally, what you need to do is write a conclusion or make a judgment. Now, the conclusion uses the acronym AGIM. So A stands for answer the question. This is where you make a decision. And J, where you justify, giving evidence. Then the I is the it depends on. So can you give a fact? Well, it depends on this. And finally, you just commit to a decision at the end, saying this is the one I think is more important of the 2. So let's go further and try and answer the question for Apple. So looking at ethics. So for knowledge and understanding, which are the basic skills, 3 marks, you have to show, once you've defined what ethics actually is location in China morally right? How do you apply that? Well, you talk about working hours, 10 days per day is 10 hours per day is rather high. Mind you, the Chinese are used to those working conditions. And then finally, the analysis and evaluation, you'd say something like Apple is seen to be trying to change and working with suppliers to monitor checks which are seeking continued improvement, and as Apple's a large company, the media will pay more attention, therefore ethics is an important issue. But on the other hand, let's look at the finance. So it's all about profit, isn't it? Profit and loss. So here you'd say production costs in China are lower because wages are lower and there's a need to maintain profits. Applying that, you look at the information in the case study and talk about how much they're being paid. that there's free training. And then to apply that knowledge here, you're looking at, or rather to analyse and evaluate the information you've got. This means their cash flow is likely to be positive as production is cheaper. And as well as that, for production site in China, people are likely to buy the products from there, and there's no extra charge in shipping. How would this look in an exam answer? So let's lay it out. So the question is obviously written for you, then you need to show how you understand the meaning of the words ethical considerations and financial implications, so give a definition here. Then you would continue by making your first point. So the candidate here is making one point here. One key objective for Apple was cost minimization. This is the point, the key point. Cost minimization is when a business reduces its costs that are directly related to production. And then the candidate goes on to give evidence to support their argument. And again, on the other hand, looking at the financial aspects of the business, and again, the candidate is using evidence to support their point of view. So, on to the conclusion, using the acronym AGIM. So the candidate said, for the answer to the question, to conclude, I think the financial implications is the more important factor out of the two for Apple. Justifying it, giving evidence. Why? Because all the businesses aspire to reduce the cost as much as they can. Moving on to the I, it depends. Although it may be argued that this is somehow ethically wrong. Apple have paid for 60,000 employees to go on college courses. This almost cancels out the low wage argument. And finally, make a decision. In the short term, there may be admin costs. However, in the long term, there'll be an increase in profit and reduced costs. Now, some people might be asking, how do I get the higher marks to achieve the 8 and the 9 grade? Well, you need to use what's called an integrated approach. This is where you bring in all 4 units, or your knowledge, and you apply it from all 4 units studied, which are operations, finance, marketing, and HR. Thank you very much. For more business videos, visit this YouTube channel. Bye for now.